All in £4,580 and 1 pence. To get this build started, we're starting with the MTW-9 Standard Edition, and the reason I went for a Standard Edition is because basically, to put it shortly, I'm going to be ripping pretty much every component off this gun. There's very little that we're going to be using from the base gun in the build, so I didn't really see why spending the extra money for the PDW version or the tactical when the parts are just going to come off anyway. So I've taken the flash hider and the magazine out, just pulling the stock off now. That can be set to one side. The stock in its entirety is not going to be used. Pulling off this rail here. It's actually quite a nice rail, but we're not going to need it because we're going to be putting something far better on. Let's pop the receiver open here. Pull two body pins out, and then we can split the upper and lower receiver. Mainly what I want this Standard Edition for is just the standard infrastructure, so just pulling the grip off here. And we won't be using this, we'll be replacing it with something from Magpul. Luckily the MTW-9 does accept a lot of real components. You can use real stock tubes, mil-spec, you can use real grips, you can also use real rails because the threading is exactly the same as real ARs. So getting real components to fit this thing is going to be quite easy. I'm going to pull the charging handle out here, and the plan was to leave everything in the middle of the frame that would be left over that I would be using. However, the hop unit, the trigger, the mag release, the charging handle, they're all going to be discarded as well. So we're going to go over a few of the components that are going to be fitting in just a moment. We'll be starting off with a Geisley Mark 16 9.3 inch handguard, as well as a Magpul MOE K2 grip, because I couldn't get the K2 Plus, max model trigger, real PDW stock, and a silverback suppressor, which we do discard as well because we use something a little bit nicer. So I've pre-recorded a lot of stuff talking about what I'm not going to be using. Some of the stuff that I am going to be using, I've gone off on a tangent since then. It's been a while trying to get things in stock and everything like that. I've also done a lot of like Cerakoting bits and pieces, but we're going to start assembling this thing and we're going to start getting an idea of how much money this got into this build. What I will say is I'll put information as to what everything's cost, obviously what it will cost you. I'm not saying that you cannot get it cheaper than that, but it's either I've paid that or that there's the only place where you can get it from. So MTW-9, let's get you zoomed in here. This is the lower receiver. I've coated this in cobalt. The theme for this build is cobalt and titanium. As you can see, the RS PDW stock there, I've done in the same scheme. Some parts are going to be black. I didn't want to coat every part. It gets a little bit out of hand, and it's always nice to have a few contrasting colours there, so everything's not one of two colours. I think we've got 4 or 5 contrasting colours here, but why, obviously, will be revealed. I put everything, all the components, everything in these little boxes. You can get these off Amazon pretty cheap. They're very good when disassembling. I've bought a load of these because obviously when stripping down customers' guns, or you're doing builds and you don't want components everywhere, you can get a load of these on Amazon. I think they come in like boxes of 4 where they've got different sizes, and they're very inexpensive. But when pulling apart guns like this, obviously it's got loads of little compartments. It just keeps everything nice and tidy. Especially keeping all the bits separate that you need to remember where they go and such forth like that. So there's going to be a load of components we're not using. Obviously we're not using the grip. I will be using a Magpul grip. This is a real one. The only thing you'll have to do with the MTWs is you'll have to drill a hole for your airline if you're running an airline through the grip again. You basically just drill this out to 12mm. What I'll say, start at the top, go up in your increment in drill bits, keep going until you get to the part where it's going to hit these like little sidewalls where they hit the receiver to obviously keep the grip straight. Then I suggest flipping it over and drilling it through the bottom, because as you drill through the bottom, the plastic itself will hold the drill bit in and it will take those fins off there. So you drill that to 12mm. So let's start assembling this thing. There's obviously things still in packets. I got a max model trigger. Since I recorded the last few bits as well, I've picked up the M4W hop unit as well. There's lots to go over, so let's get started. I have been trying to figure out what order to do this stuff in. Some of the bits I was trying to leave till last, but let's see what we've got here. A lot of Strike Industries stuff. I initially wanted to build this with a Strike Industries gridlock rail. Trying to get one. I ordered one from a couple of places in the UK that was shown in stock. It's not their fault. I get it. You have stock inventory problems. The money was refunded straight away, so I can't really fault them for that. But getting one was a pain in the backside. I couldn't get one absolutely anywhere. The only places that had them in stock were places in the US. And of course, it's something that they won't export unless you've got specific licenses. As far as my knowledge goes, that's about right. So I did manage to get a few bits. You've seen the rail anyway. The rail was coated. So it's been coated in titanium here. A bit sacrilege doing that to something that's so expensive, but it needs to match. But I do like the Strike Industries stuff, so I did buy bits. Some of it makes absolutely no sense, like the charging handle, because this does absolutely bugger all on the MTW. But I saw it. The Geisley charging handles, which I was looking at, were about £175 to £200, which is a bit too much. I think this was about the 50-60 mark. So, but as I add all this stuff up towards the end, I'll go through what I've spent. So to begin with, we're going to need to put the body pins in so I can put the stock on. So here I've got some Strike Industries ultralight pivot takedown pins. I'm hoping these fit. Can't see why they wouldn't. Very cool design there. And we have the original pin bits and pieces. Looks about right, so I'm going to go ahead and fit this. It's got a nice fitment there. So we're going to pop the pin in there. Going to pop the spring. And I like that Wolverine have done these with encapsulating grub screws. So we've got a 1.5mm Allen key there. We're going to screw this in just so it's flush, which it is. Let's give it a test. Oh, it's just a bit tight, which isn't a bad thing. Very cool. Let's get the front one in as well. There is a grub screw that sits here in the front of the receiver. I imagine this is to stop the magazines going in too far. There are some other bits that I need to get. They do a 3D printed piece that sits in here that stops the BBs going behind the mag release. So we've got the front body pin. We've got the normal MTW one there. And we've got the Strike Industries one. They are a hell of a lot lighter. Got the nice little logo on there. I'm going to pop the spring in. I'm going to pop the body pin, sorry, not the body pin, the indent pin in. I'm going to try and do this where it doesn't fire out and hit me in the face. Oh, there we go. I love how that sits on the receiver. Sort of sits in shape and in line. This one does pull a little bit easier than the back one. I'm sure they'll loosen up over time as they get used. So Strike Industries body pins are a drop-in fit, which is nice. I'll take the standard ones as spares. Let's pop them in that bag there. Now I did change the mag release. I went for a Strike Industries one as well. For some reason in my head, I thought that this was metal. Looking at the pictures on the I didn't check, and it's not anything wrong with it. They're just a nicer polymer style mag release. So we're going to pop that in. It would make sense for them to make the pins the same, because it makes it a hell of a lot easier manufacturing wise if they're all just the same part. Let's tap this in here. Seems about right. The mag release works. That's nice. Nicely made. I did have a mag here. Let's make sure this still goes in. Oh yeah, lovely. So now with the Strike Industries one, so with the standard MTW one, it's very much a copy of the Magpul styles. So you can use your thumb as you point the mag out. You can use the paddles on the side. However, with the Strike Industries one, you have a paddle on the down press as well. So if you hold the gun, you down press it, and you've got enough, with the stock on, you've got enough leverage, you can do it like that. The magazines are quite tight in the MTW-9 from the factory. Let's pop that in there. And this will probably be a longer video than usual, but please stick with me. This stuff does take time to get right. I obviously don't want to rush through and make a 10-minute video and have issues. I'll try and splice out the unnecessary bits as much as I can. Spare bits there. I'm going to pop those in the Strike Industries box. Mag release fitted. All good so far. Got a Max model trigger here. Comes with a new spring. And these are adjustable, which is nice. I do have the same style on a lot of my KWAs. I do like this style, it's nice and comfy. Put this in here. Nice trigger there. They have changed these boards. So, if I remember correctly, I need to pop this in first. Then we need to pop the bolt release in. The bolt release is something that I didn't get. Apologies if this was off camera, I'm just trying to make sure I get everything lined up correctly. I'm going to put the stock on. Let's get the tube here. Again, this is a real stock. Thread straight in. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the Wolverine MTW stock, but I was going to be replacing most of the gun anyway. And it really wouldn't be in theme with the build if I was still using Airsoft stock, so there's nothing against Wolverine at all. It's just the way I was going with the build, so I am interested to see if this fouls the Strike Industries body pins. Let's pop that in there for now. Oh, it does. So we do have our first issue. I'll have to figure out a workaround for that now. I mean, I'm probably going to be mostly pulling this out fully anyway, but it would be nice to have that snug down if you're doing a bit of CQB. So we'll have to see about that one. Might have to shave a bit off. I don't think it's hitting by much. I mean, I can always put these body pins on another build. However, let's crack on. What I also bought controls wise is the Strike Industries selector switch set. Now, I didn't know this when buying it, but apparently we can set this up for a 60° and 90° throw. Now, I do have safe semi and auto on there, but it would be nice not to have to flick it round all the way around to like have a sort of a, it'd be nicer for a 45°, but we'll see. We'll keep it to 90 now, we can always change it. So there's actually no markings on here to determine which one's which, and there's another issue with this because I don't think this has a full auto setting on there. So we might have scuppered ourselves there as well. So we've only got semi and safe. No full auto, which is a pain. Right, well, that's scuppered that idea. That's what happens when you buy expensive bits and pieces, I suppose. Do you know what? We could just fit it for now. It is a nice selector set. I wonder if we can throw this onto the MTW-9. No, it's a little bit off, so we'll come back to that. Back to the drawing board on that one. Might just have to get this machine, which is going to cost a bit more money, but I'd rather have it right. So we're going to take a 2mm Allen key and put this selector back on. For now, while I get that sorted out. So let's pop the selector back in. I think I've put that in upside down. Yes, I have. These selectors are very easy to get sorted because we pop that in, we pop in the detent, and we've got the spring, so let's just set that to semi-auto so it stays there. The spring goes into the pistol grip here, and we're going to set this on its side so we can line it up. Make sure that spring goes into the detent. Push it all the way in. Does it work? It does. Let's flip it upside down. And we need a mounting screw, which we'll use the Magpul on. Pop that through. I know the real steel screw fits because I've tried it already. I will have to drill another hole in this grip with the base plate. It's tightened up. Safety works. Semi. This thing's starting to come together. So apart from having to drill out the pistol grip base plate, we should be good to go. So that would go down the side like so. We can push the pin in just to hold that there. Put the base plate on for now. We have a nice assembled lower receiver. I'll have to see if I can find somewhere to machine this. If I can focus on it. I didn't even think that it wouldn't have the full auto selection on there. So perhaps I'll see if I have to contact Strike Industries and maybe get one. Which, let's face it, isn't going to happen. Let's pop that back in there for now. We'll come back to it. If not, can always see if we can modify it to fit one of the MWS's maybe. So there's the lower assembled for now. We're going to move on to the upper receiver, so I'm going to set this to one side. Now the upper receiver I think is a bit more the exciting part. We've got some nice Gucci bits here. So this was the original barrel. It was slightly machined just so that the rail would fit, or the barrel nut would fit, and then I had to heat this up to like the temperature of the sun. Get some grips on there and pull that off because this barrel isn't going to be long enough. I'll demonstrate this with you like so. Let's pop the barrel nut on there. So that goes on. And that goes on there. So we've got a problem. The barrel sits right down here. The rail isn't quite wide enough to fit the suppressors in that I want to use. So I basically just quickly took a bit of scrap barrel, machined it up on the lathe to get the length correct. So after fitting this in, get it in here, I wanted it to sit just in front of the rail like so. But I don't obviously want to run a barrel like this. So unfortunately the lathe that I use is a little bit restrictive on the through hole of the chuck. So it was going to be a bit of a pain to machine something of this length and thickness. So I took this to a buddy of mine, which now goes by the name of Bavtac. He started doing airsoft bits, and I said, could you make me a nice outer barrel on your bigger lathe? And he said, yeah, not a problem. So this is all one piece of aluminium. He's made it to the exact right size. He's reduced the size of the barrel here to just shed a little bit of weight, and then flared it back up at the end. And the barrel looks that good. I was going to bring this back and coat it in either graphite black or blackout, but I think you'll agree this barrel looks so good. I'm half tempted to leave it in its original, sorry about that. I'm half tempted to leave it in its original finish. Obviously we've got the Geisley Mark 16 rail here. These are very expensive. I'm going to pop this. I bought the tool as well, the Geisley tool for it. I'm just going to nip this up here. I'm not going to go ham on it because I might have to take the outer barrel bit back here off. I might coat that as well. So we can put this on, and you'll see there the finish is absolutely superb. I do have the original in a barrel here, and he's actually made this to a tighter tolerance than the Wolverine. I think the Wolverine was bought out to like 9mm. This is slightly reduced to 8.8, but then what I'm going to do is use some kind of make some kind of part that will secure the barrel in the end when we put the stainless one in. We've got the fixing pieces for the rail here. We've got the screws. We've got the clamp that goes on the back. And we've got the fixing hardware. So we need to put one of the pins in. Then we need to put a stopper in. The screw's trying to escape here. Need to put the stopper in. So these have two stoppers. And they go in opposite ends, so let's pop this one in opposite way around. Then we're going to extract the screw till it drops in the detent there, and then to put this in, I have been able to do these before by just popping it in there, but let's push that detent down. And all that does is it stops when you've loosened the rail off. You can obviously pull the pins out and they stop, they self-capsulate there. The main reason why I bought this tool as well, one, I didn't want to damage this, and two, I want to torque this all down to real steel specs. Doing that, you need the right tools and the right parts. Let's pop this on here. Again, I'm going to come back in, make sure this is all torqued down, sort of go over it with a fine tooth comb, make sure everything's okay. I think it's a T40, no, it's a T30. Just snug this down because it's probably going to have to come back out for any troubleshooting and stuff with the build, so just hand tight this down here. I have bought torque wrenches and stuff to torque all this up. Let's pop these screws in. It's annoying that these are Imperial, obviously with it being an American made rail. These going to go back in. So I'll have to fetch out my Imperial Allen keys to snug these down. Let's take a guess. Nope. again, I'm just going to snug these on. They probably need to be reduced in size a little bit because they do stick out because of the MTW receiver. So I'll probably nip these down just so they go in and sit flush, because I don't want them sticking out and snagging on anything. But you can see this gun's starting to come together. So we obviously have parts here from the hop unit, but we're not going to be using those. We're going to be using the max model hop unit. Let's open this up. Get these parts out. This packaging is nice, but it's a pain to get the bits out. Very, very nice indeed. The machining on these is superb. Now I'm using a custom made inner barrel here with an hop hatch and a Promi purple nub. I have this build in many of my guns. Hand lap barrel. The barrel isn't to size yet. I basically just cut it and crowned it to a certain length because I didn't know how long the outer barrel was going to be. So I will need to correct that at some point. I'll load this into the gun. Oh, perfect fit in there. This little connector back in place, and I think we've only got an inch to cut off the barrel, which can be sorted. I think that's pretty much the upper internals done. So initially I was going to be going with this silverback carbon suppressor here. I'd ordered a real steel suppressor cover just because I was keeping it within the realms of real steel. Obviously I can't have a real suppressor. I imagine they're restricted, and I don't want to go into that grey area of putting real suppressors on airsoft guns, but the silverback suppressors are actually really good. But I found something a little bit better. I was browsing WGC and they have these Airsoft Artisan CGS style suppressors here. They do come with a tube in the middle, so there's no foam in there, but I can sort that out on the laser, cut some foam. And I did order a tan one because I thought, well, I'll Cerakote it anyway to match. But they sent me a grey one. And after putting it on, I was like, I actually like the contrast in the difference of colours there. So as this went on, I was like, oh yeah, I do like that. So let's get some of this stuff out of the way. We have a real steel charging handle that has absolutely no use whatsoever, but it just went with the Strike Industries theme. And then I think I'm going to have to put that in before I put the engine in. So let me quickly just do that. So, more parts that now need modification. I didn't expect it to be a drop-in. Obviously that and the selectors are going to need some modification to fit properly. It's not a problem at all. It's a very simple modification on that part. All it is literally a mil or two off the surface there, which I can just file down. Not a problem. There we go. And you can see the difference here. They've just modified it quite a lot, narrowed it down. Easy fix, that will work. Back on there. I think that's all ready to go. That's all in. Why are you not closing? Oh, you're fouling on the fucking rail as well. Fuck's sake. So, as I said, things don't fit. As I suppose still, which I think is. But look, make fancy shit, and fancy shit doesn't work. So, you don't know the time basic. Shame, but if it work, then it's enough. So, perhaps I'll put those pins on maybe those fills. Also, it's a little bit less sticky. I can't do anything after the last team round. To do something as well. If I had it rather, it would. If I was using start fit later on, it's my core choices that are making stuff that will feel. It should be. Come on. So, maybe this fixes two problems here. First off, the sock. To get it to work. Now, pin in stock. Folds. Look at that. Nice and short now. That's what we want. I could modify the Strike Industries pins, but I'm not going to fit this build anyway. Probably going to save them for another build, or I'll sell them. Getting this stuff in the UK is a ball ache, so I can't imagine I'll lose money on that. Just sell them for what I bought them for. Right, that goes in. Come on. There we go. Oh yeah, come on, almost there. In we go. Pin goes through. Receiver's nice and tight as it was before. Giggity. Okay, pins out the way. I do have another accessory, which is another real steel part, which is an M-lock, a Magpul M-lock grip here, which might be nice. Pins out the way, get that out of the way. We want the suppressor on. Oh dear me. And, you know, coming from somebody that uses a lot of MWSs, a lot of loud guns, to zoom you out here so you can see it. This is going to be predominantly used for games which maybe are a little bit more shooty, because you've got the 75 round mags. And stuff in the dark, so where I want to be quiet if I'm using the night vision. Which leads me on to the next thing. I need a red dot for this thing. I was going to put, you know, a red dot. I've got some Holosun bits that I'd ordered, and I was going to run a pet box, and it was getting all cluttered, and I want this thing to be as minimal as possible. Let's put a mag in there so you can see. And this led me down a very expensive avenue to the likes of Me Pro. Now, these things are a pain in the backside to get hold of, and this is a very expensive accessory. Now, this isn't, oh look at me, I've got some expensive stuff. I don't want to do that with this video. It gave me a very reliable red dot that's real steel, which is what I want. Two things there. And it also gives me the adjustability of having both Viz and IR lasers, and they're both co-witness to the red dot. So, it is a bit big, but you are sort of putting in, it's like not having to have the space took up by a pet box or I don't tend to run torches when I run night vision gear because it tends to give you position away. Comes with this very fancy wrench here. Let's pop this on. And also, what I like about this thing is it has a pressure switch built in, and the pressure switch built in has this little bit of velcro backed, soft velcro backed strap, so I can put this round the gun. I can wrap it round. I don't need any fancy pressure switches. I don't need anything to mount the pressure switch to the rail. I do find that the Mark 16s for me are one of the most comfortable rails I've ever used. I do have this here with it being an SMG, if I want to have a little bit more of a sturdy grip on this thing. The barrel is long. It's because of the suppressor. But that's why I went with the PDW stock, so I can push that thing out. But the monkey in the room, not the elephant, me being the monkey, you're probably asking, well, how much does something like that cost? It is expensive, and I was in a fortunate position where I could get one of these things. But this, the closest I can find, you'll get this for is about £1,400 if you can find one. You do see them floating about in Europe, and bear in mind this is brand new. This is not a used item. So yeah, it's very expensive, but it ticks loads of boxes for me, and it looks modern as hell, and I like the way that it goes with this build. I did have to buy mags. Of course, it's a proprietary magazine using the Eva mags. So I bought some mags. I bought the couplers just in case I want to not carry or not have as many pouches. I can actually run 3 pouches on my vest and carry 6 mags. These do work with the couplers with this as well. I went one step further. I know, keep going one step further, and thought, and I have done this in the past with when I had an Evo, I bought real steel P-mags, and I modified the real steel P-mags to have these cassettes put inside. At the time when I did it, everyone was asking, there was a lot of people, to be honest, saying that I was faking it. I really wasn't. I put that magazine there, and a lot of people going, well, how much does this cost? How much does this cost? Well, you've got to remember, these magazines aren't cheap. So, a pack of 3, 2 packs of 3 cost me £95. Yeah, £95, 3 pence for 2 packs of 3. So let's say you're doing 6. So those 6 mags are almost cost you £100, let's say, because you're going to have to pay postage as well. £100. The P-mag casings, which I have ordered, but they haven't turned up, so I couldn't put them in the video. The real P-mags, to then take them out and put this in, so I've got a P-mag style magazine, which is, again, the look I was going for. Those shells each are about £40. So you're talking £40 on top extra a magazine. To skin all these magazines, and the one that comes with the gun, you're talking £280 just for the casings. So that's £280 for the casings, and then another £100 on top for the magazines themselves. We'll see how that goes. When they turn up, I might do a little guide to show you how to do it, but that is just going for an aesthetic that I really want. It's not going to give me anything. It's not going to give me a higher capacity. The magazines are slightly longer as well. I just think it'll look really cool to have proper P-mags in this thing rather than these sort of like very plasticky black shells that normally come with them. Again, these are a pain in the ass to get hold of as well. Also, to run this thing, I'm going to need a way to power it. Now, I do have HPA tanks, and I do have a regulator somewhere. It's a very old regulator back when Polar Star was a thing. I think it was like a red line one or something. And the refresh rate just isn't very good. I've had this problem for ages with my other builds. I've got like a TK45 with a HPA engine in there. It just can't keep up. With the MTW-9, and I have had an MTW in the past, but with the MTW-9, I wanted to run it as efficiently as possible. So I went and bought the Wolverine Storm Category 5 regulator. This comes with a quick detach line, and this regulator is superb. It works very, very, very well. So that, again, was something that I needed. I've got HPA tanks, so that's fine. The HPA tanks aren't that expensive anyway. But let's take you through a quick run of what this build actually costs. So we've got the MTW-9, was £801.49 from Empire Airsoft. Thanks very much to them. Regulator and line here, which was £180. 2 packs of 3 magazines, which were £95. 3 mag couplers, so they come in sets of 2. So 3 of those, £39.65. The Geisley rail, you're looking, you can get these from Brownells. And again, these rails aren't very expensive in the States. You're talking about $250 to $350. Getting one from the States is next to impossible. No one will export it to you. You can get them from Brownells, but from Brownells, which they do show in stock at the moment in their US warehouse, that rail is £653.30. So this rail almost cost as much as what you'd pay for the gun. But there are cheaper alternatives. You can get, you know, Angry Gun, HAO, the one that I have on my Geisley Super Duty MTW. This is a Z Parts one. this is very, very good as well. But, you know, as good as it is, it doesn't fit with the theme. So £653, 30 pence from Brownells if you get it from Brownells in the UK. The Geisley barrel nut wrench wasn't actually that bad. It is just a piece of laser cut steel, but you're talking about £19.90 for that. The Strike Industries stuff, first the mag release, which was £28.10 from Brownells. The ultralight pivot takedown pins, which obviously we haven't used, were about £25 from Brownells as well. You know, I might modify these to fit. Undecided. I will have to trim quite a bit off that back pin for the PDW stock to fit on there. But again, £25 from Brownells in the UK. The selector switch, which I've been unable to use. Where is it? You're talking about £52. I'll put the prices up in here so you can follow along anyway. But I will need to machine this to fit, so it will end up costing more. I do want to fit it because it is cool and it does go with the other few bits that I've got there. To be honest, I've had to take the pins off, and the Strike Industries charging handle needs adjusting, but we'll get back to that. I might do a video when that's done and get those fitted. What I like about that is you can have them ambidextrous, and it also comes with a cap on the one side if you don't want to run it ambidextrous. The charging handle was £49.70, so just shy of £50. This will be an easy modification to get it to fit, and it will look a lot more modern and better than the one that comes with it. The M-Lock vertical grip, again, you could use a cheap FMA one, but I wanted to get a proper one. I think the proper ones are slightly smaller than the fake ones. They're actually a lot smaller. I do have a fake one here on my Aries, and this is a real one, and you'll see the size difference. It's tiny in comparison. It is a lot more sort of out of the way. You can pick up the copies for about £15. A real one, again from Brownells in the UK, because it's a good source of real steel parts. It's about £36.10. They do come in different colours as well. I have ordered a real suppressor cover, which is 150mm length. It's called a Eufednar or something like that, in grey, to sort of match the theme. It was about £76.55, but I'm still waiting. It's been over a month now. Brownells, what the fuck? And it's not even like it was coming from the US. It said in stock in the European warehouse. Yeah, it sucks. A Magpul K2 grip. I did want the K2 Plus, which has the rubberized style on there. Again, I have them on all of my MWS builds. It's got that rubberized grip on there. I really do like it. It does help grip, get a grip purchase on the rifle. Couldn't get one. Again, everything seems to be in short supply at the moment. So I had to get, the only black one I could get was just a normal K2, which isn't bad at all. As soon as a K2 Plus comes in stock, I'll obviously pick one up for this rifle. This grip, not the Plus, just the normal K2, was about £33.60. The real PMag shells were about £36.85 each. I'm not going to include them in the list now just because I don't have them. I will do an update video if those items do turn up. So fingers crossed. Again, it's another item that's took nearly 2 months to get here. The Airsoft Artisan Suppressor. Now, I did start with the Silverback one, and it's okay, but it doesn't look realistic or copy anything that's in the real steel world. So I can't have a real one, so I did have to sort of make a sacrifice on that. This ended up costing me just under £105, but I don't have to coat it or anything like that. It matches with the build. Mi ProLite MOR Optic, which has a red vis and IR laser built in. New with the case, all the bits and everything that come with it, just as you buy it off the shelf. Very difficult to get hold of. If you're lucky, you know, I've seen them pop up every now and again in like real steel shops in Europe. You're looking at about £1,400, give or take. But finding one of these things is going to be very difficult unless you get one used. This one was brand new. The PDW stock, I actually had this from the people who manufacture it. It's manufactured here in the UK and shipped out to the US where they're sold. These aren't sold in the UK as far as I'm aware yet. You're looking at about £300 for that stock. The only reason I'm leaving a bit of information out is because I don't know whether the manufacturer wants me to talk about this yet. If I get the go-ahead, I'll do an update video and, of course, let you know. But for all sake of it, you're talking about £300 for this real steel stock. and it doesn't come with, if you were putting this on a real AR or a gas blowback, to put it on a gas blowback you would need to modify the threads. Obviously this being RS spec, it just went straight in, and you would also need to find some kind of spring and buffer to run it on a gas blowback or a real AR. Aluminium speed trigger from Max. I do need to adjust that screw just so it gives me a bit of pull. That was £48.98. I ordered that, got it straight from Max Model, which I presume, I'm going to say they're in Canada, but again, I could be completely wrong. I think it's a Chinese manufacturer that's deals elsewhere. I'm sure people in the comments will let me know more on that. But these triggers are great. I've got them on many of my builds. They're doing for the MTW, so of course I had to buy one. I didn't initially buy it, but the Max Model hop unit, I got that in the UK from High Pressure Airsoft. Ended up costing about £49 roughly. So that actually turned up pretty quick, which came today of filming, which is why I've decided to finally put this thing together. But that, again, great purchase straight in. The barrel, custom barrel, hand lapped, in a barrel that is. It's about £150, including the R-hop and the hop rubber, just all in. That's what I normally do them for, hand lapped. I'm just going to put the retail on that. Obviously it doesn't cost me that, but that's what it would cost for you to get the same thing. There are many different barrel combos you can have, but that's the one I'm using. It's the one I get the best results out of, and this thing will perform superbly with it installed. The Cerakote of everything. Again, this is something I do. It was very intricate. There's multiple colours. There's steel components which I'm going to coat. You need to budget about £250, £300 for that. If this was a job that came into me with all the disassembly and stuff, that job would be £300. I haven't put any other labour on this prices. It's just a Cerakote. That's how long it takes. It's a very meticulous thing. I'm very meticulous with my Cerakote. I'm sure there's many places out there that would be cheaper, but if you want it done right, I think it has to be done the very best, to the very best quality and sort of craftsmanship and everything like that. I'm like I say, I'm very meticulous. Don't want to waffle on, but there's about £300 worth of Cerakote there, with more to be done. Obviously, all the controls I'm going to do in a slightly different colour, and again, I might still do the barrel. Not too sure on that one yet. And again, you don't have to have it Cerakoted. You could have it running the original colour and the rail original colour, but I wanted a theme. Cobalt and titanium, I love this combo. Now this barrel, if you go out and got that barrel made by someone, you can be expected to pay up to about £100 for that. Again, this friend of mine that does it, we tend to deal in favours. I'll do him some Cerakote, he'll do me some machining work, and that's how we work it. But if you was to go in there, a rough guide price of having something like that done, and you're looking at about £100. So I hope all that's up on the screen now. I hope I've added it all in. This is a very expensive build. This is quite possibly the most expensive MTW-9, if not MTW, that I have seen. I haven't seen anyone put any of this stuff on. This build would get more complicated as well, because I do have a night vision optic that I tend to use. That I would probably use with this because I can use it in the dark. It depends. If I'm using night vision on helmet mount and using passive aiming, IR, stuff like that, I'll be using this. This can work as well great in the day. It's got tritium, it's got all that good stuff in there. The quality of this sight is just next to none. It is superb. You can run it on 1 or 2 batteries, so if one battery is low, it will happily run off the single battery as well. It's very simple. You've got a couple of settings there, and the rest of it is on your pressure switch. But if I didn't want a passive aim and I just wanted it on this thing, I do have some night vision like that. I haven't included that as well because it's not really how I'm predominantly going to set up the rifle. And again, I don't want this to be a bit of a... I don't mean for this video to come across in the wrong way and look like I'm flexing cash or anything like that. It's not. Many people spend their money on different things. You could have a gun that performs as good as, if not better, for a fraction of the price of this. But I wanted this to be on point. I knew what I wanted. I wanted all real steel stuff, apart from obviously what I had to use. And there's no, obviously I can't use real mags because it's an airsoft gun. I can't use real suppressors. Obviously there's a restriction on that as well. So it brings us to the total of this build. Ashamedly, all in £4,580 and 1 pence. And this isn't even including all the shipping that it took to get all these parts in. There's shipping on everything. Whether it's small parts that cost like sort of £5–10 from local places, or whether it's expensive shipping on things that have come from overseas. I haven't included the PMags just because I don't have them. You could put another 7 of those PMags, you could put another £280 on. You could also put the labour on to sort of get those inserts machined and fitted. We'll maybe look at that at a later date. But this is as much real steel stuff as I can throw at it. Yes, there are some little niggly issues that we've got to fix in terms of real steel stuff not fitting. Pins just need to be modified. That one just needs trimming down slightly, which I might do. And this one just needs the corner just rounding off here so it doesn't interfere with the rail. That's not the pin's fault. That's obviously the rail that I'm using. The charging handle needs to be modified to fit as well. I still need to drill the cap so the line can go through it. And you know, if you don't have tanks, you'd have to add that, but I do have a few tanks available. I probably will get a nice carbon fibre one, but you know, I digress. I can use the ones that I've got. This regulator is absolutely superb. I had the gun and the regulator from Empire Airsoft. Absolutely top-notch service. The hop unit came from High Pressure. The trigger came from Max Model directly. All of the real steel components, apart from the stock and the sight, come from Brownells. They're usually pretty good, but I'm still waiting on the PMags and I'm still waiting on the suppressor cover. The suppressor cover I will use. It's about 150 mil. So I could, I mean, it's gonna cover that nicely. So again, it's a bit of a shame to have a suppressor look that nice and cover it with a cover. I did initially buy the cover for this, not because, well, mainly because I wanted to cover this up. The carbon fibre is nice, it's nice and light, but it would have just looked nice. Perhaps I haven't included the price of this as well. Perhaps I will sort of switch between the two. I'll do an update video, we'll see how it goes. I've got to set this thing up, get it chrono, get it set up for about a joule, which will be nice. Thank you very much for tuning into this video. I know it's been a long one, and I know trying to keep people encapsulated on these builds is quite difficult. But if you have stuck around, I do appreciate it. Obviously, I don't earn anything from these videos at all. This is just me having an obsession and wanting to build something very, very unique. I do a lot of gas blowback stuff initially. You can see this from, you know, my Super Duty builds. This started as an MTR from Marui. Everything on this thing is pretty much real steel, barring obviously the barrel and this rail. So thank you very much for tuning in. Hope this has given any kind of information on any of the mods or the MTW-9 itself. There's going to be a period now where I've got to set this up and tune it. It took time for everything to come together. I'm interested to see what it looks like when the PMags turn up. But you know, perhaps we'll have to figure out some kind of nice flash hider maybe, or like a flash suppressor, like the little cans you can get. But this is predominantly going to be used in the night time anyway, where I want to be quiet. So I'll get that suppressor filled with foam. Perhaps I'll do some sound tests as well as action tests. Who knows? I'm still looking for somewhere to go and test this stuff close by or in the region of the Midlands and Staffordshire. To have area outdoors to test these things and show and record the accuracy and the distance that you can hit targets to. Before I was very spoilt where I had the alleyway down the side of the business. If you have access to a bit of space, or you know anybody that has access to a bit of space in that local sort of area to the Midlands, let me know. We'd be happy to use it, and we can hopefully get on with the reviews again. Get some good long distance shots of what these guns can do. Thanks for tuning in. This has been the crazy expensive MTW-9 build. I can't wait to get this out on the field and try it, and get back into a bit of HPA stuff because I haven't for a while. And if you've liked what you've seen, there's a lot more coming. Like and subscribe to the channel. I don't normally try and push that on people, but coming from the channel which had, you know, nearly 40,000 subscribers last time to a new channel which has got about 4,800-ish, it would be nice if you stick around and see what content I've got coming out for you. Thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next one.